Have you ever noticed that there are women who seem untouched by time, as if they carry a special glow that surpasses their actual age? This is about more than just genetics. Something deeper is at work in the hidden realms, beyond what we usually call aging. It is not about skincare or surgery. We are talking about a phenomenon that Carl Jung would have immediately recognized, namely, that the state of the soul shapes the expression of the body. What you are about to discover challenges much of what you have thought so far about the connection between inner vitality and outer appearance. The secret does not lie in what these women do, but in what they carry in their energy field, a rare spiritual alignment that acts like a shield against the destructive force of time. At the end of this journey, you will understand why some souls shine while others fade, and how this ancient knowledge can also change your relationship with aging. The mystery does not begin in front of the mirror, but with the light that comes from within. When Jung spoke about the influence of the psyche on physical appearance, he knew consciousness shapes reality in a way we have almost forgotten today. Some women carry a vibration within them that works outside the usual laws of aging. Imagine a woman walking through a crowded room. She does not attract attention by effort or artificial means, but by an indescribable radiance that seems to bend the light around her. Her face tells stories, yet still looks fresh. Her eyes reveal ancient knowledge and yet sparkle with childlike curiosity. This is the archetype of radiant femininity, the woman whose soul keeps her young. Jung described this phenomenon with the process of individuation, the union of conscious and unconscious, leading to psychic wholeness. Women who walk this path often notice that their outer appearance changes along with their inner transformation. They embody what Jung called the eternal aspect of the feminine, the timeless essence that transcends biological aging. Within them lives what Jung called the anima mundi, the world soul that invisibly connects all living things. They have learned to attune themselves to this cosmic rhythm. Their personal life story thus submits to something greater, timeless. This confirms what mystics have always known. Consciousness shapes time, and time shapes the body that carries this consciousness. These women share a common ability. They transform suffering into wisdom without becoming bitter. While others become heavy with disappointments, they turn pain into radiance. Think of the woman who has endured many losses and yet carries an inexplicable gentleness on her face. She has not bypassed life but practiced what Jung called active imagination, the ability to work with unconscious contents creatively and healingly. In this way, she prevents inner poisons, which would otherwise lead to premature aging, from taking root in her system. The ancient Greeks distinguished between Chronos and Kairos. Chronos is linear, mechanical time to which most submit. Kairos, on the other hand, is sacred time, the eternal moment in which transformation becomes possible. Women who mysteriously appear young live primarily in Kairos. Chronos touches them only when necessary, but it never defines their essence. The beginning of this path lies in what Jung called the encounter with the shadow, the parts within us we would rather hide. Many people waste immense energy suppressing these dark sides. This eventually shows on the face, posture, and aura. The radiant woman has made peace with her shadow. She has integrated it instead of fighting it. From this integration arises what ancient alchemists called the philosopher's stone, a state of inner wholeness that radiates outward. When inner conflicts stop constantly draining life energy, this power is freed for regeneration and renewal. The face relaxes into its natural beauty. The eyes become clear, free from the fog of inner struggles. The posture straightens with genuine, not feigned, self-confidence. Yet something deeper happens here, something directly connected with the nature of time itself. Jung understood that the psyche works according to its own laws of time. He called this synchronicity, meaningful coincidences pointing to a reality beyond linear causality. Women who embody this rare spiritual quality seem to live partly outside normal time. They have developed what Jung called the observing ego, a part of consciousness that can distance itself from the drama of everyday life and yet remain fully engaged. This inner attitude allows them to observe their own aging process without identifying with it. A paradoxical shield arises precisely because they consciously perceive aging. It slows down. They age as participants, not as victims. Connected with this is what Jung called the transcendent function, the bridge between conscious and unconscious that makes genuine transformation possible. This psychological achievement creates a kind of time bubble around them in which the usual laws of aging operate differently. Yes, they age, but in the rhythm of their soul's development, not according to the merciless ticking of the clock. Perhaps you have already met women with an ageless radiance that makes you question their true age. They move with a dignity that testifies to inner work. Their soul wounds have been transformed into strength rather than exhaustion. Their laughter arises from deep layers. Their silence carries peace. Their presence awakens wonder about hidden mysteries. Science is now beginning to catch up with what Jung sensed decades ago. Research in epigenetics shows emotions directly influence how genes express themselves. Chronic stress accelerates the aging of cells. States of inner peace and joy, on the other hand, promote regeneration. Even telomeres, those protective caps of our chromosomes, biological markers of aging, respond sensitively to our psychological state. What Jung called the collective unconscious gives these women access to an inexhaustible source of renewal. They tap into archetypal energies that have carried the feminine for millennia. This connection creates something like biological grace. Cell regeneration happens faster. The body stays young. Women who maintain vital contact with the self, the archetype of wholeness and meaning, show measurable differences. Their cortisol remains balanced, inflammation levels are stable, cell repair mechanisms run optimally. The peace of the soul preserves the youth of the body. This is not fantasy, but the recognition of a deep connection between consciousness and physicality that Jung explored throughout his life. He recognized that psyche and body are not separate domains but two sides of a whole, and that change in one always affects the other. Jung also spoke of the religious function of the psyche. By this, he did not mean institutional religion, but the sense of the sacred that can permeate everyday life. Women who live this feeling treat their bodies like temples of consciousness. This reverence protects them even on a level we would today call quantum-like. The luminous woman has also learned what Jung called the art of letting die, letting go of what no longer serves without clinging to familiar patterns. She knows that every stage of life demands an inner death and a rebirth, and she goes through these transitions with dignity rather than resistance. While others grow heavy under emotional burdens, she practices conscious release. She keeps only what allows her soul to grow. Everything else remains behind before it engraves itself in lines and shadows on her face. This letting go also concerns the expectations of others and societal role models. Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear in everyday life. Those who identify too strongly with it get caught in rigid patterns. The luminous woman wears her masks lightly, like clothes that one adapts to the season. In her psyche works what Jung called the autonomous complex of the eternal feminine, an inner structure that operates independently of conscious will, but always serves the highest growth. This inner principle protects her from becoming rigid when women lose their cyclical, regenerative nature and orient themselves only toward linear time. Through the transcendent function, she has found a third way, beyond the opposites of youth and age, beauty and decay, meaning and meaninglessness. In her presence, one feels, this woman is a friend of time, not in battle with it. She dances with it instead of fighting it. Thus arises a field that lets others feel how the weight of time briefly becomes lighter. Jung would have recognized in this the archetype of the wise woman, not as an old witch figure, but as a living embodiment of timeless wisdom. These women have deepened their access to the collective unconscious, to the eternal feminine, which is always renewing itself. The unconscious continuously balances out the rigid ego through dreams, insights, intuitions. In this way, they remain in harmony with their true path of development and escape the spiritual stagnation that otherwise accelerates aging. The rare spiritual quality of these women is ultimately the harmonious integration of many of Jung's ideas. They have achieved what Jung called the union of opposites, the balance of masculine and feminine energies within themselves, the integration of light and shadow, the acceptance of both strength and vulnerability. This inner marriage works like a psychological alchemy that transforms everything it touches. Their faces become living mandalas, symbols of inner wholeness, which Jung understood as the natural expression of the self. The symmetry of their features does not testify to genetic luck, but to a balance achieved through conscious inner work. The light in their eyes reflects the integration of all parts of the personality into a harmonious whole. This quality shows most clearly in their relationship to suffering. Where others develop permanent furrows of bitterness from pain, these women have cultivated what Jung called a religious attitude towards psychic material. They know every wound carries within it the seed of healing. Every crisis contains the potential for greater awareness. The luminous woman has achieved what Jung called differentiated feeling, the ability to distinguish between emotions that serve growth and those that only continue old patterns of suffering. She can feel deeply without losing herself. She can grieve fully without going under. She can be truly angry without overloading her system with poison. This emotional maturity protects her from the inflammatory response in the body that research directly links to accelerated aging. This does not mean she avoids suffering or pretends it does not exist. Rather, she has developed the ability to endure what Jung called the tension of opposites, to remain present with difficult experiences without immediately fleeing or rushing to quick solutions. In this way, she prevents the inner fragmentation that accelerates the aging process. Her nervous system remains regulated even under pressure and preserves what researchers today call heart rate coherence, a state in which breathing, heart rhythm, and emotions are in harmony. This coherence has a profound effect on hormones, the immune system, and cell renewal. The peace of the soul becomes the medicine of the body. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about these women is their relationship to the future. While others cling to youth or fear time, they have developed what Jung called prospective thinking, the ability to recognize the potential of each moment for growth. They live in becoming, not in nostalgia. This awareness creates a field of possibilities. They attract experiences and relationships that foster their development. As if their clear intention to grow calls the fitting circumstances into life, Jung would have called this synchronicity in action. Their faces mirror this openness to the future. Instead of rigid features that tell of resignation, they carry flowing features, faces that allow infinite expressiveness, eyes full of curiosity about what life has yet to reveal. Jung's idea of the unus mundus, the unity of all reality, is reflected in their cells. They have achieved what alchemists called the union of microcosm and macrocosm, a personal transformation so fully aligned with cosmic principles that their own aging process unfolds in harmony with the eternal cycles of nature. The spiritual quality they embody ultimately concerns not only the relationship to themselves, but also to the invisible forces Jung called archetypes. They have learned to work consciously with these universal patterns of human experience. From this, they draw strength and renewal. In their presence, one feels this archetypal connection. They seem to carry more within them than their individual life could explain, as if they had access to the wisdom of all the women who walked similar paths before them. This collective feminine grants them a timeless authority that has nothing to do with age. Their laughter carries echoes of the eternal feminine, which Jung recognized as one of the fundamental ordering structures of the psyche. When they speak, you do not hear only their voice, but something greater that speaks through them, an expression of the divine feminine that uses their personality as a vessel. This permeability requires what Jung called a permeable ego, strong enough to maintain identity and at the same time open to the transpersonal. A balance that takes years of inner work. Once achieved, these women radiate a brightness that goes beyond personal boundaries. So arises what Jung called the conjunctio, the mystical marriage of conscious and unconscious, masculine and feminine, temporal and eternal. From this inner union grows what alchemists called the child of the wise, a renewed self that carries both the wisdom of experience and the freshness of new beginnings. The face becomes a living testimony of this inner harmony. Women who bear this rare spiritual quality have learned to live what Jung called a symbolic life, an existence in which every experience means more than just the obvious. And it is precisely this attitude that protects them from that existential emptiness that makes so many people old, because meaninglessness consumes their life force. For them, every day, every action becomes a small ritual of renewal. Their relationships serve them as mirrors for further growth. Challenges transform into opportunities for deeper insight. This alchemical attitude towards experiences means nothing is lost. Every moment contributes to their development. This sense of meaning is directly reflected in the vitality of their physical presence. Jung recognized that the psyche possesses a natural healing function, an inherent tendency toward wholeness that works independently of conscious will. In women who carry this rare spiritual quality, this function is consciously activated and nurtured. A process of continuous cellular renewal arises, working from the inside out. Thus, not only their appearance is transformed, but also the way they inhabit their body. As we now come to the conclusion of this exploration, it becomes clear. The fountain of youth is not a mythical place in the distance. It is a psychological state, accessible to anyone willing to walk the inner path of integration and individuation that Jung so precisely described. The women who embody this rare spiritual quality have not discovered a secret recipe or a magical formula. They have learned to live in harmony with the deeper currents of their psyche, to consciously work with archetypal forces that shape human existence, and to maintain a living connection to the transcendent dimension of being. Their apparent youth is in truth an expression of spiritual maturity. Their wholeness shows itself in a physical appearance that shines from within. They have achieved what alchemists called the opus contra naturam, the work against nature, which paradoxically makes true nature visible. In their presence, you sense what humans can become when they learn to consciously engage with the forces Jung explored. They stand not only for personal achievement, but for collective possibility, that the development of consciousness can indeed be reflected in the body. This rare spiritual quality is, in essence, accessible to all. It only requires the courage to embark on the inner journey Jung called individuation. The willingness to meet one's own shadow and integrate one's own light. The decision to live consciously rather than automatically. The soul that walks this path discovers its timeless essence. And this discovery changes everything, including the way we age. If you have recognized yourself in this exploration or feel inspired to begin your own path of conscious aging, I invite you to subscribe to our channel. Share in the comments what has touched you most deeply and which aspects of this rare spiritual quality you would like to unfold in your life. Your thoughts enrich our shared understanding of how consciousness shapes reality and how the state of the soul influences the expression of the body. Together we rediscover what Jung brought to light, that true youth springs from the eternal source of the integrated self.